Hello everyone, and thank you for being here. I am Helene Westlund, your Shakti guide, and I welcome you to the Shakti Flow Summit, where we learn how to embrace our feminine flow to receive more joy, balance, and energy. In this circle, no time exists, so everyone who watches this now or later are all included in the energy of this circle right now. Today we have a divine teaching expert. It's Rebecca Cavender. Rebecca is a best-selling author, poet, and professional writer living in one of the beautiful desert valleys in Washington State, USA. In a uniquely catalyzing and lyrical voice, Rebecca intuitively scribes words that serve as medicine so that you may feel deeply seen and heard. She is called to write new myths with new storylines that show us how to fully express ourselves and live in ecstatic joy. She provides a variety of intuitive writing services, copywriting and editing for soulful entrepreneurs, book coaching and editing, sacred writing circles and workshops, written oracle readings and blessings, personal poems. A certified scent priestess, she also offers in-person anointings. And when she's not writing, you can find her walking her personal path of the wild, being with her amazing daughter, or hanging out in one of the many Pacific Northwest coffee joints. Welcome, Rebecca. How do you like that introduction?
It's pretty good. Thank you.
I'm trying my best with the English. It's like, I'm trying.
You do wonderful.
Well, thank you for being here. I first connected with you on the Priestess Presence page because of your beautiful, beautiful writings. I love your poems there. And I often wrote them down or used them in my personal diary because they are so beautiful. And I asked you if I could share them as well. And you said yes, and we started having a little bit of contact, and this came up, and I thought this was perfect because you are an intuitive writer. And I want to start with talking about that. What is intuitive writing to you?
Well, thank you for having me here. And it's so beautiful to be able to spend time with you and to see you in this live way. And intuitive writing for me is being able to be in a space of listening. So it's really about being able to have my body into such a place in my heart, in a place where I'm receptive, so that I can hear what wants to be written through me. So it's like being a vessel. And I do really feel like most of writing is just listening to hear. Sometimes that comes through in different ways. It can not always be just the words that come through, but it may be symbols, or you may see images or hear sound or songs. And so being able to take those and translate them and move them into a way through words that then are often pretty poetic, and so that you can really move something that's intangible into something that's more tangible, that's felt. So the intuitive piece also is to invoke a feeling within us that might not always make complete logical sense, but we sense it and we feel it in our bodies as a message. It lands in us somehow, or moves us and activates us in some way.
Yeah, and you work with clients as well?
Yes.
And how do you do that? Do you channel them, or do you?
Yeah, usually what I'll do is if, for example, sometimes when people, if it's copywriting that I'm doing for other clients, then a lot of times I'll feel into their energy or their higher selves. And I'll say a prayer, and I ask to hear and receive the messages that really want to come through for this person and their tribe, so that can be offered as, I use the word medicine because I really feel like words are medicine. And so so then that's one way. Or a lot of times people will also contact me if they're having a change in their life somehow, or they're upset, and they'll ask me for a poem or a blessing. And they'll say, oh, Rebecca, I really need a poem, or, or even if something horrible is going on in the world and their heart is heavy, they'll ask for a poem. And so then too, I will create ritual so that helps me get into a space of receiving. And then I listen in and I pray for and ask for guidance to help move the message. And sometimes I may pull a card, like a tarot card as well. Sometimes I don't do that. It depends on each person and what kind of feels like wants to move through. And occasionally that might be tapping into certain archetypal energy, but what always ends up happening is I start to see or hear some kind of something that feels kind of nebulous at first, and then as I typically have to move my body a little bit because the energy kind of moves through the body, I think it's the Shakti, then it becomes clearer, and I have to just trust whatever is coming through, even if it doesn't really make any logical sense to me. But it does to the person. They understand the symbols, the imagery that's coming through for them.
Yes. That is really about listening to your intuition when it comes to listening to your intuition about other people. Yeah. So do you have like a little tip how to get in? You were talking about a little ritual. Do you set like a circle, or do you invoke some goddesses, or how do you do that?
Yeah, usually, often I can do it very quickly now, so it depends on what I'm sensing, but almost always what I'll do is clear some space, make it quiet. And I'm very sensual and tactile, so using my senses helps to center me and to help me be able to access myself and also become more present. So for me, that's when lighting a candle. I love oils, and so I might use scent and anoint myself with some oils, and I'll intuitively choose which oils to use depending on what feels like the energy they're holding for that person. I may light an incense or not. And then I just sit and I breathe, and I may use I use mudras, and I activate certain points on my body that help me very quickly move into an intuitive space. Later when we do an activity, I'll show, we can do it now, but I'll show you how the actual things that I do that work for me. And then I suddenly am in a space where I can just start to hear. It's very
well, it becomes quick with time, so
with practice, and also just the surrendering. And I feel like if we are accessing and moving that Shakti, it's a creative force, and so it moves fairly quickly through our bodies too. And so if we can move into it, then that helps as well.
That is true. So this summit is about the feminine power, and it's the divine feminine is taking over the world. But why do you think it's so big right now?
I feel like it has grown so much because our world has become so radically out of balance. between the masculine and the feminine. And our world was crying out, and the masculine and the feminine crying out to have a rebalancing come through. And that we needed to be able to remember this feminine energy and you know, a mother God, to be able to bring some of the atrocities and the harshness and the rigidity that we see in our world, to kind of to come back together a little bit. And so while the world still looks wildly out of balance, then we're still having this opening up amongst so many people, men and women across the globe, about what it's like to remember a mother God. And it's shifting everything. It's shifting the way that we move in our daily lives. It has for me anyway. It's changed exactly how I parent, how I move in the world, how I work. It's allowed me to find a rhythm that's true for myself instead of a societal rhythm and structure that's been kind of pressed and pushed upon many of us. And so I think that that's a lot of also what's wanting to have happen in the world.
Yeah, you told me earlier that you schedule, as well as you schedule your work, you schedule your rest.
I do. I really do. I probably, like many of you, I'm quite sensitive, and I'm an empath, and I also take in sensory information at an acute level. And so learning that about myself, and instead of really pushing against it and conforming and wishing I was different, embracing it and honoring it and loving that about myself and finding a rhythm that works for me. So I know just my personal, how I am. I'm someone that can be very intense, and I can work really hard, and I get in it, and then I need a rest. And then it starts again. And so when I'm working for clients and they're doing launches, for example, I have to be intense, and launches are busy times. And then I schedule with my clients, I let them know that for like a week or a long weekend, at least after a launch, I'm taking a break, because I need to rest my body and to kind of recalibrate and decompress so that I can become more present again. And even just in my daily life, you know, I know if I have many outside meetings, or if I'm doing lots of things and I'm socializing, or I'm doing lots of shopping, then I come home between them and I schedule gaps of time, and I rest. And that might be for a half an hour or 30 minutes, so that I kind of get all of that out of my system, and then I can go again. So,
yes, that's something we should all learn from, I believe. I have a hard time going to grocery stores. It's just too much information.
I really understand, and especially like on a Saturday, or they were, you know, or after work hours. And so I try to go when there's fewer people. And I imagine a lot of the women watching this are probably really sensitive like that too. And if you're empathic, and then you're picking up the information from all of the other people who are in the shops as well and feeling their energy, it can be a lot. So to be able to, sometimes we can put pressure on ourselves. We feel like, I feel so tired, and I really wish I wasn't feeling this way or feeling so much. But I think we're invited as part of the divine feminine to feel. And that's part of our gifts and our offering in the world. And at the same time, that may mean that we need a moment for ourselves to just breathe, and in a really loving way to hold ourselves as a practice even.
Yes, that is true. So, speaking of that, should you lead us to our activity now?
Sure. This activity is a way that I access my intuition through Shakti, through a creative fire that moves through my body. And so I'd love to lead that or guide you through that. And so, and also, I'll just back up for a moment. This is a great way that if you wanted to have a writing practice or any other kind of creative practice, if it's painting or singing or any sort of expression, this is something you could do beforehand because that will activate your voice and your fingers and your hands, whatever you use from your body to express yourself. So this activity or the practices is that at first I close, you might want to get comfortable and then close your eyes and take a few deep breaths and just feel centered in yourself. And as you breathe in, you may or may not feel called to do this, but I draw a symbol on my third eye, and for me, it's a North Star or a starburst. And just allow yourself intuitively, if there's any other symbol there for yourself, to gently trace it on your third eye. After this, I have a couple other symbols that I trace into it, which is a cross and a diamond. And that's in honor of my ancestors. Then I take the palms of my hands and start with my left palm, and I also gently trace the symbol of the North Star, starburst on my left palm, and then on my right. And I allow this touch to be so gentle, but also scintillating. And I complete the symbols on my palms. And as I do that, then I move my fingertips down to the center of my palms, just tracing them gently. And as I do, breathing in any kind of sensation, and you may want to feel and move your fingertips all the way down your arms and up into your chest, and really just let your fingers feel like they're holding a liquid diamond honey light that just soothes and penetrates your skin and is sultry and yummy. And I would suggest even just letting your fingertips touch your face, just gently and beautifully caress your skin and your neck. And as you do with your neck, feel your throat opening with this honey liquid light and these symbols that are your sacred symbols to open up your intuition. And as you keep breathing that in and allowing that light to just move through you, you can start to move your hips back and forth just a little bit for how much you want, still breathing this in. And as you move your hips, imagine that this awakens your starry womb, that part of you that's connected to the heavens, to the cosmos, the part of you that's still made of these stars. And breathing that in. And here I ask that you touch your heart again and imagine a central flame in the middle of your heart. And you may still want to keep moving your hips back and forth. As you move those hips back and forth, kind of feel that starriness kind of move through your whole body, and in your heart, focus primarily on this central flame. And as you inhale, when you imagine this flame becoming singular and penetrative. And as you exhale, it expands like a horizon and moves throughout, expanding across your chest. And then when you inhale again, then you see the singular focus, and exhale, the flame expands and moves across your body. And if there's any place on your body that feels tight or constricted, you can place this flame here. This flame becomes a way to see through the storm or see through the constriction in your body, as though it's a storyteller itself. And so imagine that flame in that place of constriction where you can't see through very well. Maybe it even looks like a snowstorm. And you inhale to see the focused light, and exhale, seeing the light diffuse, the flame expand, warming you and giving light to this area that has been harder to see through. As you breathe this in, you can feel your whole body begin to be activated, and you may even feel your yoni begin to open a little. And here there is a triple flame. So you can imagine that that flame that's in your heart is connected to the flame in your yoni, and that each labia on each side is its own flame, and your clitoris is the central flame. And so again, as you inhale, you see this penetrative singular flame that's almost like a force of light, a lightning bolt, a beam that moves all the way up your spine, up your body, up into your heart. And then as you exhale it expands and moves and warms your legs, your feet, your toes, and feeling this all in your fingertips. And it's from this place when you feel alive and active and with this heat and this fire that you enter a state of ecstasy. And from a state of ecstasy, you're able to listen and feel and create and birth new things into being. And we're reminded that through orgasm, we are creatrixes, that we are conduits of creation, that we replicate the Big Bang, and that we do that in our earthly form. And we can feel, even though we're connected to this cosmos, the dirt under our fingers and the parts and the minerals of us that are earthen and very grounded here all at the same time. And this beautiful, lush place allows us to create song or sound or art or just words that can serve ourselves as medicine and to serve others as a way to come closer to the divine that lives within them. And so this is the beautiful practice that I love, and it's the space that I like to be in most. And this is what I do to write. And I'm honored to share that with you.
Oh, that was beautiful. It was really powerful. And I love the way when you breathe it out, I could actually see some places of my energy just catching fire, like something was in the way and had to be removed.
Yes, and there's such a beauty in that, and it feels like, in my guidance, it feels like this is part of our transmutational process as well.
Yes.
So when we are to actually use this exact same thing in whatever variation works for you, but feeling in this energy of the fire within our body as a way to gently but powerfully and amazingly move through any grief or pain or stuckness in our lives, and that it's a way that our bodies can move it, but we're still in this place of ecstatic pleasure. So to be able to weave, it's this nexus point between pain and pleasure, that the ecstasy as a fire, as a flame itself, will transmute and move and heal within us. And it feels good. You know, it's not bringing us deep pain, but that is actually creating new imprints and new stories in our body that we can feel what it, because so many of us don't remember what it feels like to be in an ecstatic state, and to feel this sort of Shakti move through us, unless we are, you know, maybe having sex. And other than that, we're not using that energy as a way that we can actually walk every day in our lives.
And I liked when you said you can start to move. I already began to move because it felt natural. It was, I liked it. I will definitely bring that with me and use it. Loved it. So thank you for that. And you also have a gift for us today. Can you tell us a little about it? It's called Sacred Ecstasy, Writing from Your Fire.
So it's, you can use what we just went through, what we just experienced together, this sort of activation of this Shakti fire. And it's a little mini ebook that guides you through this and talks a little more poetically about it and how you can use that to begin to write. And I also spoke in the little mini ebook how sometimes when you get into such an ecstatic state, it might be hard to want to hold a pen and to write something down. But this is actually a beautiful practice to be able to have your body speak to you. And to actually be able to imagine our bodies as landscapes, as nature, and to feel into that and feel where the fire goes and what your body wants to be, and then have it speak to you from this place about what its needs are, what it wants, and it becomes a love letter to yourself, or a love poem to yourself from your fire to your body. And as we honor this, then we can express ourselves more in the world and accept ourselves more and shine more brightly. And so the mini ebook takes us through a process in which we can write from an ecstatic place. And again, it doesn't have to be writing, it can be whatever expression that you have. So.
I'm a fan of the written word, so I will go through it. Definitely will. I love it. I always felt the call to write, but always thinking I'm not good enough, you know. So this is time to start.
There's so many of us feel that way, and one of the most beautiful ways about accessing this heart, this point for us of this kind of sacred ecstasy and this inner fire, is that when we're doing that, it's not just us in our minds. You probably won't even really remember what you write, because you become so enraptured, and you become a vessel. And so it's also a prayer and a way to say, please, you know, let whatever wants to come through to guide, to move through me and in service. And so in that place, it's not even about us. It's about whatever wants to move through us, and it eliminates that piece of, am I a good enough writer? It's amazing, the poetry and this mix of like electric light words that move into like an elixir that you can eat. You know, it's like this honey elixir or honeycomb that people can eat and like devour and ravish, that feeds our souls through words or whatever form. And so it's no longer just ours, and we don't have to worry so much about if I'm good enough.
No, it's
because
not
you
about
are.
me.
All you have to do is listen.
Oh, yes. Well, it was really nice talking to you today, Rebecca, and to hear about you and your work and your life.
Thank you for having me here. And it was beautiful being with you.
Thank you so much. So to you and to everyone else, just keep the Shakti flowing now. Bye.